Hey there, this is a tutorial on how to make a glossy ball in GIMP. So go ahead and start GIMP up and create a new image. We'll be using a 640 by 400 pixel image with a transparent background. So take a moment and make sure that your settings resemble mine. So when you're ready, let's go ahead and get started. Start by selecting the ellipse select tool. Make sure that the mode is set to replace the current selection and that your other settings resemble mine. Let's go ahead and draw our ellipse. Let's go over here and make sure that it is in fact a true circle. We'll do a 300 by 300 circle. Once you've done that, go over and select the blend tool. What we'll do now is fill our selection with a gradient. Make sure that the opacity is set to 100 and the mode is set to normal. We want our gradient to be foreground to background, so if yours is not set to that, like mine isn't, go ahead and select the little icon and go to foreground to background. Make sure that this shape is set to radial. Make sure your other settings resemble mine. Up here for the colors, I'll just choose a pretty red. I'll just go all the way red, and then I'll set the background to be black, but I don't want a deep true black. What I want to do is sort of set it at a shade near black, but not quite. Okay. Now once I have all of this set up the way I want, I'm going to start somewhere around the middle of this circle. Depending on how you want your lighting to go, you may want to start at a different point, but I'm going to have a basic glossy ball where the light seems to come from the top middle. So I'll start here and just basically pull anywhere off to the side. Okay, and that'll create a good spherical gradient effect. Now what we'll want to do is go ahead and add another layer. Feel free to name your layer, hit pause and name your layers as you feel fit. I'm going to just keep the default. So next step is to get the ellipse tool again. Make sure that the mode is set to intersect. What we want to do is we want to take the current selection and then we're going to draw another selection, and we want those two to just kind of be intersected. So make sure that that is selected and your other settings resemble mine. Now start up here in the upper left hand corner and just draw another ellipse where the top of it is well above the current selection, and then the bottom of the ellipse should run around the middle of the sphere. If you need to adjust it, just use the handles. See, as I'm moving the mouse around, the selections become active. I can just move this selection up and down. I can bring it in or out, just shape it however I want. So I'll just kind of bring it in a little bit on both sides to give it more depth. Okay, so now you see how the shape has sort of intersected. That was my current selection intersected with the second selection, which I created on a second layer. Now what I'll do is I'll fill this with a glossy-like effect. Actually, first let's select it and shrink it by about 1 pixel. That way it will give it a little bit more realistic appearance, and your eyes will really see the depth pop through. So go back over here, and after you've shrunk that, do the blend tool. We're going to create a gradient effect here. Set the opacity to around 50. I like to use 50 to 80 depending on what the project is or what I'm feeling like that day. I'll do 50 this time. The gradient effect needs to go from foreground to transparent, and make sure it is going from the color to the transparency. Our shape will have to be set to bilinear for this, and make sure the rest of these tools option settings are the same. Now we don't want to keep the red. We're going to change this to white. That way it'll give it a nice lighting effect. Okay, so now that we have our settings all set up, go ahead and start somewhere at the top here. It doesn't really matter, just a little bit above. And then just drag it on down to, say, a little bit below here. Okay. All right. So now if you don't like that, you can always Control Z as an undo. You can go to Edit, Undo, either way. And you can just kind of play with the opacity here. Let's see what happens when I do it at 80. Okay, so that gives it a little bit more lighting there. Let's go ahead and select None. See what our glass ball looks like there. So, and if you need to add text to it or any other things, you can just do that on other layers. But that was the basics on how to do that. Now, I would probably want to go ahead and cut away the extra areas here by just selecting here the crop tool. Going to get it just as close as I can to the edge. So I want to be careful not to cut those edges off. Okay, that looks good. So here, from here, I would just export it as a ping to preserve that transparent background. And then, you know, it can be resized either on the web page, or you can export it, resize it, and re-export it, however you feel fit.